You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Drew Del Bree.
What's up, everybody? It's Friday. Man, look at this. We got a full house. Holy bejesus.
Packed. It's packed.
Pizzacked. And, well, we got the boys from Abyss Gazing joining us since they were kind enough to have us on their podcast.
Twice.
Well, one of you twice.
Right. Well, I'm half the man, almost literally, that Lou is. So, I mean, yeah, got that going for me. Genetics is a bitch, but that's besides the point. Well, welcome, fellas. It's about time we're making this happen. We've been trying.
Yeah.
And
It's been long enough, long in the works. Finally got it all worked out with schedules and everything.
So for our grand audience of 3,
1,000.
yeah. Always had a
3,000.
couple.
Yeah.
Always had a couple zeros on there. Why don't Mark? Let's start with you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick? Tell us where you're from and what got you into gazing into the abyss, if you will.
Well, I actually met Josh through a horror movie club, based out of Winchester, Virginia. Psycho
Fucking
Cinema.
whores.
Yeah. The group is called Psycho Cinema, and they do a lot of events out there in the Winchester area at the Alamo Cinema Draft House out there. And I met Josh when he was looking for just a guest for, was it the Ted Bundy movie, I think it was?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna get the title right.
Yeah, he was looking for a guest for that. And
extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile.
Yeah. And I ended
Had
up
a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we met, and I just kind of didn't go away. And that seems to be the basis of most of my relationships, is I just don't go away. And we kind of
Like herpes.
yeah, something like that. And we just kind of kept talking, kept in contact, and everything kind of moved in the direction that we started doing Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast. And it's the basis is bringing attention to mental health through pop culture and movies, in our case, horror movies. And Billy over here, I've known for a long time. He's coworker or former coworker and friend. He helped get me into the career I'm in. And he was a kind of a reoccurring guest every so often that we just kind of adopted and made the third host earlier this year. So
he's like a fungus. He kind of just grew on you.
Yeah, I was like that little leech that never left, so it's all good.
That's all right. He's kind of starting to. He's been helping our parent company, Victims and Villains, which is the organization Mark was referring to, into some of our local events. And now a lot of the people that have also done Victims and Villains in Virginia also really like him. So I'm afraid he's a fungus that's here to stay.
and we kicked Mark to another state, so it's all good.
Pretty much. Billy got his own Villains and Victims email, and they still haven't given me.
No, he hasn't. He's
like,
like, fingers crossed.
I like to stay neutral and out of the inner family feuds, but man, that's hurtful. I just kicked him out like that. But I'm neutral. Just saying.
It was kind of a multitude of things with Billy. He was a reoccurring guest that worked really well with us. He was a friend, and I kind of talked to Josh about bringing him in because I knew he was dealing with some tough stuff. And I thought it might kind of do him some good, do him some help, having something to focus on other than the real world for once.
You can tell him what I was dealing with.
You sure? I mean,
I'm
it's your business.
I'm fine.
His wife,
or you're sitting right there. You could tell us. I mean, why get it secondhand?
I was struggling with kind of a little bit of depression. My wife had passed away from cancer. So me and Mark had known each other for years, and Mark was having me come over, watch fights, whatever, just trying to get me out of my shell. And actually the podcast actually helped even more because it let me express and kind of feel like I'm helping other people because I'm showing them from the widower point of view of what you go through and everything.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much therapy involved in just talking, you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's talking helps you more than you realize, even if it's about nothing. So
Yeah. Everyone has a story. Is what's they figured out a long time ago. I remember the Chaplains had a program. Well, when the second Gulf War kicked off back in 2002 over in Iraq, not the Afghanistan piece, but the Iraq piece in 2002, and they had this program where they realized everyone has a story. When veterans come back, they want to tell their story. They have to get it out. They have to tell their story. And that's where I got, I changed around that statement of, everybody wants to tell, but there's no common frame of reference, right?
right.
And then, that's the one thing I love about, abyss gazing is it has found a niche to gather around a common frame of reference, to get together and tell your story, around horror movies. Like, how cool is that? Like, that is crazy.
You don't even
have
to. We don't even agree a lot of times on whether or not we like the movie. Like when you were there for The Fourth Kind, you weren't particularly a fan of the movie, but we were able to talk about the mental health aspects of it and things like that.
And aliens.
Mental health, bringing mental health in the conversation, it also allows film podcasts to not only encourage people to come outside of what they normally have with their viewing experience, but also to kind of take a more neutral approach to that and kind of realize that, hey, at the end of the day, we're all kind of messed up and we're all kind of dealing with these things, and like, let's talk about this and like, let's find out what goes through this journey together. But in my experience, I vote that 9 times out of 10, it's 2 of us against 1. In terms of movies, it's either Mark and Billy really like the movie and I hate it, or me and Billy like it and Mark hates it. That's typically how that goes.
Now let me ask this quick question: which one of you, right, by majority vote, which one of you, if it's good, it's okay, if it's great, it's good, right? And if you say it's okay, the other 2 aren't going. Who exaggerates their reviews the most?
Well, considering the fact that out of the 3 of us, I am one of the only staff writers that actually reviews films for the parent company, Victims and Villains, I would probably say that I have the most neutral stance on a lot of things. And I mean, I also have a lot of very strong feelings. Like, you can obviously see the Immaculate poster behind me. And that's a movie that I think a lot of us that was kind of those that 2-in-1 battle where I think Mark was the one that was kind of it was okay. It had decent motives. But for me, I looked at it what it was kind of saying in the face of a post Roe v. Wade world. And that's part of the reason that I love it, because I think that's an issue I'm very passionate about. And, kind of that jaw-dropping ending made it one of my favorite films of the year.
I did some reviews, some reviewing for Victims and Villains, but it was, with the way I am, it was taking a long time to do reviews, and I was having a hard time. They would say they'd need a review by a certain time, and it was hard for me to keep up with it. So I kind of haven't really done a lot of reviews in a long time. But one of the big differences is Josh goes in kind of examining a movie, where I will go in wanting to be entertained. So there's movies that I like because I just found them entertaining, that he's dissected to death, that he hates, or just doesn't understand the appeal to it. Well, so it's kind of funny that way.
So even our dynamic
real quick, we're not in school, man. You don't have to raise your hand.
Look, I'm just like this. I'm in defense, man. My desk is right here.
He does that during the podcast too.
Yeah,
so it's all good.
It's just force of habit at this time.
No, not you. No, okay.
No, you're not the teacher's pet. You can't talk.
Right.
So.
fuck. I've had it with this podcast. I'm gone.
Yes.
Even back when it was like Mark and I, before Billy kind of came on board, because Billy is the newest addition to our dysfunctional family. Of Mark and I, we it was always kind of like you had that back and forth, to where like if one of us agreed, one of us didn't, one of us disagreed, and it kind of like we went through a string where it was like a lot of podcasts that were just like that. But that's always been the dynamic that Mark and I have always had. Mark's been like, I'm the guy that's gonna wing it. I'm the guy that takes notes. I look up, a lot of. Bring a lot of education, a lot of mental health, and because at the end of the day, like I want to make sure that we're finding a way to bring the conversation back to mental health. Or if we're gonna do an episode like we just recently did Black Friday, which was intended to be a really just dumb throwaway episode.
Racist.
And ended up. Oh, I'm sorry. Green Friday, as it's been called.
Yeah,
because it's the color of money. That's also like that was one that was meant to be kind of a throwaway, but like I don't know.
It became a serious conversation. Seriously,
it became a serious conversation. We all worked in retail at one point.
Yeah, and it's I think he does, like he said, he does a lot of the kind of analytical side of it. And I mean, yeah, I wing it a lot because that's just how my brain works. It's kind of weird if I go in doing a lot of the prep and stuff that he does, I come off more deadpan and rehearsed. So
it's funny you say winging it, because the two shows that I did with you guys, I normally go into a film wanting to be entertained, but I knew I was, oh shit, I got to pay attention to these guys. So it was kind of cool because I looked at it through a different lens, if you will, pun intended. Thank you very much.
Well, all seriousness, I think we kind of agreed that the first episode you did with us, Bram Stoker's Dracula, we both kind of agreed that was one of our better issues that year.
Yeah.
Or better episodes. Yeah.
Better episodes, yeah.
It was a fun one, man.
It was. I was like surprised because I was like, the movie was like very like meh. But then I was like, all right, like I can get behind the conversation. Those are the podcasts that I really love to produce, where I feel like really like neutral on a movie, and then you get into the conversation, you're like dissecting it and like, this is how it made me feel. What about these characters? And oh my god, Keanu Reeves.
Bro.
No, I like going in and trying to being the new guy. I'll watch it 2 or 3 times sometimes if it's not one that's in the theater that we're dealing with. So I could go back and look at the storyline and be like, all right, well, what other way can you take this story, or where else can this be? Or what other versions of mental health are in here? And I try to bring that up whenever we're doing our podcasts and everything, just as a different set of eyes or, watching it.
Yeah. I tell you what, I was so looking forward to doing the podcast with you guys when Lou was on with us, because I could not wait to see how Lou's brain analyzed and picked that movie apart. I'm in both a positive and a negative way. I mean, I was waiting. I knew I was in for a treat, man. I was buckled in, seatbelt, fastened. I had the notebook out. I'm like, let's go.
Well, see, the fun with that episode for me was I had listened to a bunch of the live episodes with y'all about talking about Skinwalker Ranch and all that fun stuff. So the idea of doing the fourth kind came up, and Josh just went, "We need Andy for that." Like, immediately. It wasn't even a question or suggestion. It was like, see if Andy will do it.
There are just some guests that like we've had in the past that I'm like, this person would be perfect for it. Like, I think at one point we talked about wanting to do the craft, and it was like, we need our friend Zambies to come in and do this episode. Like, we're working on a series, like a podcast series with her next year. We're not going to announce, but like when I pitched it, the idea, I was like, this should be done with Zambies. Like,
yeah, all of us agreed.
She's Zambies has become kind of a off and on almost adopted cast member too at this point. She's just a little ball of chaotic energy. And and it's just she's fun to work with and talk to when we have her on.
That kind of sounds like a fast food chicken restaurant downtown.
She's actually she has a Twitch stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon, and she paints miniatures and models. And she's currently working on stuff for Adepticon next year. So the thing Josh is talking about is kind of having to be pushed back a little bit, so she can make sure she has all her competition entries done and everything. Plus, she's got 2 little kids. So
well, type her link there in the little chat box
Mark,
there, and
there you go.
working on it.
give her a shout out there.
So
That's right.
Yeah,
The next caller.
Mark,
She
you got
would-
her number, don't you?
her
You
no.
talk to her. You talk to her on socials like I do.
I usually talk to her through Discord. Let's see
The
here.
Discord.
Yeah.
See, that would have been a great segue if we'd have had a sponsor. That's right, Discord. Brought to you by.
By Zambies.
That's right. That's hilarious.
It'll let me put it in the private chat, but it won't let me put it over there in the public one.
Oh well.
Ah,
Let me see if I can
So that's
fix
her.
that.
That's her stream. She's on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoons for a few hours. But yeah, she's a lot of fun when we have her on the show.
Yeah, her.
now, horror wise, let me ask each of you.
Hey! Don't call me that.
Oh, my bird.
That's only in private, right?
How dare you?
Horror category wise, right?
don't
Like
get
a religious themed horror, or the clown themed horror, or like the traditional like Jason stuff. Each one of you, which is kind of your favorite genre of the horror? Do you like? I could tell you, for me, I love the religious thrillers. Like those are like the Prophecy and things like those are the kind of movies I really Stigmata. But anyway, I'd love to hear from each of you which one you like and why.
It's funny you mentioned the Prophecy and Stigmata. Those are 2 I've talked with Josh about doing. So
we should
They're my favorites. I could do casting. I could tell you when I could do directing calls.
We should
Walken will come in.
should do Stigmata, and we should try and find a priest to come and be a guest.
Oh,
I'd be kind of down for that. Just throwing that out there. Billy,
your genres.
yeah, Billy, give us your genres.
Go ahead, Billy.
I was going to say, I grew up on Freddy and Child's Play. Child's Play was always one of my favorites. As Josh can attest, I have the Child's Play dolls. I even brought them to one of the cons one time to sit at the table and everything.
Oh, what's the girl's name?
Tiffany.
Tiffany. Okay, I remember Chucky.
Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
She came out in 3, right? Was that her debut?
4.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4.
Bride of Chucky. Yeah. I am slashers with religious close second. So my 2 favorite horror movies are Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and Hellraiser.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
I got some mad love for old Doug. Wait, hold on, right there.
I enjoy a good slasher for some good mindless violence most of the time. Big fan of religious horror, paranormal, and for some weird reason, found footage.
My least favorite.
I know.
found footage.
I try to stay neutral on it, but I'm leaning towards Josh every time we watch found footage.
So for the
explain that.
Uneducated like myself.
Found footage.
Yes.
Yeah. The Blair Witch was
right?
probably one of the most prominent ones that everybody knows.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the ones where they're either recorded through security cameras in a house or a facility, or with handheld cameras the whole time. They're kind of hit or miss because they're very formulaic. Yeah,
Right.
They're extremely
They're fake
formulaic.
news.
It's
Fake
a
news.
style.
They're like CBS.
It's referring
ABC,
to
fake news, fake movies. Fake,
I mean, I was gonna say Fox News, but I mean CBS works too. That's fine.
they're all fake.
Right.
But it's one of those things. If you can find the right ones, they're a lot of fun. But a lot of them are just, you can tell they're just following the formula of the things that got popular before him. But
Kind
you
of
can
like that when we just did Devin.
Devin.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Devin was
God.
horrible.
It was so bad. It was directed. We went to it, and because it was directed, it was the directorial debut of JWoww from
JWoww.
Jersey Shore. And I was like,
Oh.
I'm kind of interested to see what a reality TV show host
Yeah.
like star can do with a horror film, and it was painful. Right now, it sits at my second worst movie of the year.
All
What
I
was
can
your
say is,
worst?
Jay, wow,
Terrible.
I'm surprised you thought it would be worth a shit.
Dude, my curiosity got the better of me. I was
I-
I just
Right.
want to see it because I'm so curious right now.
I think I originally
I have a
mentioned
Cinemark
it.
credit.
You did.
I just went in neutral because I didn't know what to expect.
At this point, if two or three of us, Billy, like say that we're gonna do it, you're kind of arrested into doing
Yeah.
it.
Pretty much. They're like, we're
He's got-
watching found footage. I'm like, okay,
He's kind of along for the ride at this point. It's
for the most part.
Yeah,
I got
I tell you, I could not get through Blair Witch. I know shit got like car sick watching it.
It took me a couple of watches going through it, and earlier this year we actually were fortunate enough to screen a 25th anniversary during one of our film festivals, and we had a live Zoom call with one of the co-directors, and
Wait, it's been 25 years.
25 years, 2000 or
I
1990.
think that movie sucked.
9.
Yeah.
And
I thought it's one of those movies that like is like I understand its placement in the genre, and I think it's a good movie for a one.
I know its
watch.
placement too.
But
it's, for the genre, it's very overrated.
I know right where it goes.
It's to me, it's very overrated for what it is. It seems more like they tried to make it more than what it was, but it was
I have to
basically genius
interject.
marketing.
I have to interject here for a minute. Boys and girls, if you don't understand what Uncle Lou's trying to say, let me bring you back to a time in Iraq when we used to burn shitters.
sounds unfortunate.
The Blair Witch was kind of genius marketing to make it as big as it was, but I don't think the story justified it. Some of the later entries were actually better. The second one wasn't the found footage, but the story was better to me, in my opinion.
I low key really like the second one. The second
I
one's
did
a
too.
lot of fun. I think it gets an unfair rap because people came in expecting it to be just like the first film,
And it wasn't.
It wasn't, and people wrote it off. And eventually, I think kind of like went back and revisited it. But I think we saw the same thing more recently with like the relationship between Get Out and Us. People came in expecting another Get Out, and it was like, oh no, this is different.
Yeah.
Joker.
What is this?
The
Yeah,
Joker
Joker
Leia
too.
too.
Yeah.
That's a musical.
Yeah.
It is. They
It
haven't
is.
even said this.
It
is.
is. It is a musical. It's a
musical.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's just the way you piped up and said it's a musical. It
Well,
just
it's like entirely different. I mean, it's entirely different.
We
made
should
me
just
laugh.
watch it to, just to mess with Mark. I mean, we got to watch it to mess with Mark.
What are we
Musical.
watching to mess with me?
Any musical.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh.
Sound of these
this
nuts.
out.
Wait until I bring Repo the Genetic Opera.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm on season 5 of Dark Shadows from the 60s.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I haven't even made it to Barnabas yet. It's still black and white. You know, that was the first soap.
Yeah.
Time to go color. I'm still black and white 5 seasons in. I mean, so I'm over 300 in, guys. I'm invested. Like
I've heard-
these episodes are deep.
I've heard good things about Dark Shadows. I just never watched it. Another one I heard about that was pretty good was Cold Shack too. Also.
Yes, I have. I tried that once, and I saw my 11-year-old trying to watch, and I was like, "Oh no, we can't." She's like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "Oh no, we're done."
I mean, in all fairness, though, you're talking to somebody who just before the podcast caught up on the new episodes of Dragon Ball. So,
are you watching? Yeah,
Heck
I had to. So here's what I'm doing. You guys are gonna log off right now. I can tell. Here's what I'm doing. I'm force feeding myself GT while I wait for the rest of it to drop because I never saw it.
Well, GT.
So I'm like force feeding
okay,
GT right now.
I'm gonna show off how nerdy I am. For a
I
second.
don't even know what that
GT is-
means.
You did
GT
that
is
on
actually
Wicked
not canon.
City.
GT is actually not canon. It has nothing to do with any of the other series.
He made it without a book. It was it's fan. It was created out of fan demand. When I was in Japan, they were making it.
I like pie.
It was so pie just
too,
cuts out
Andy.
the crap.
Me too.
Pie's really good. Pie.
So lost right now. Mama,
We're nerding out.
It's one of the things.
Can we
You guys
do it
see my
back?
Dragon Ball corner there?
Oh
You see
my
that
God.
one in the middle? That's the
Heck
Dragon
yeah.
Ball shelf.
We had we did our first anime episode a couple weeks ago for Wicked City.
anime, more like Anna Gay.
It's our it's our second anime episode. I did the first one without you when you were on hiatus last year.
What'd you guys do? Which one's your review?
The one we did a couple weeks ago was Wicked City, which is an incredible anime.
It's borderline hentai.
It is
I
borderline
was
hentai.
gonna say.
It's extremely horny. I strongly recommend it. And
That line is drawn really low.
We
so
did
the
perfect.
borderline-
Perfect Blue
Blue.
a couple years ago.
Perfect
When
one. Yeah.
Perfect
Mark.
Blue is a rough one.
it is,
But
real rough.
it's one of the things I brought up during that episode was the impact that Toriyama had on the world. That there were more people upset and making rest in peace comments and how much Toriyama influenced him when he died earlier this year than when the Queen died. The cartels would actually shut down business.
Oh
and
yeah, that was in the news. Yeah, because they're huge fans down in Mexico.
the influence that Toriyama had on the world is just, I think, unrecognized by people that don't want to admit how much of an influence anime and manga has had on the world as a whole.
I think we lost Andy.
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't watch. He doesn't like it at all. He doesn't like it at all. He's not interested in it. He doesn't care about it. He doesn't like it at all.
I will say if you want to hear my defense on it, go check out our Wicked City episode.
Hey, I don't judge.
Don't you see I have Piccolo behind me?
It's just not my
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think I said something about the Piccolo the one time I was on your show.
Are you talking about his pickle again? What? How did I
I
come
also
back?
have if you're true like 80s nerds, I also have the Pet Shop Boys popped behind me. Just throwing that out there.
But yeah, it's I find we come into some interesting situations and guests and just conversations in general doing the show.
Yeah.
It's like one of the I know we've said one of the best ones we had was with Andy that one year. That's one of our better ones. But we had the writer for the Old Ways.
Oh God, such
South-
a cool dude.
Yeah, he was so cool. And it's a South American possession movie.
Yeah.
So it's not your typical priest and everything going on to do the exorcism. It's on Netflix. It's still on Netflix. If you ever
What's
wanna
it
check
called
out.
again?
The Old Ways.
The
Old Ways?
Not, wait. It's the Old Ways, plural, not to be confused with the Old Way, starring Nicolas Cage. It's a western.
Oh, okay.
So the
Have-
Old
have to preface
Ways,
that.
plural.
Either way, you're getting a guaranteed gem.
Uh,
Yeah.
Look, the Old Way is still a great movie. It's worthy of high praise. I'll throw it out there.
Well,
it might be on Netflix too.
I'm just saying, if Nicolas Cage is in it,
I mean, he does. Josh is a co-host on a
He-
Nicolas
he
Cage.
can
themed
pull his
podcast.
force in back because this is going to be a good time
Yeah.
tonight.
He's got a podcast,
Holy
Nicolas Cage
shit.
podcast. So.
That's high praise.
Can you do you do an impression of him?
God, if I do, it's really terrible. A, B, C, D. My co-host on that podcast can do it way better than I can. I get.
That's not bad. That's not bad. All right.
But
It's not one of my better ones.
Way better than I could do.
It was an interesting episode because we found out that he was also the writer for the newer Muppet Show, the live Muppet Show. And he's doing this South American possession movie. And we're like, how is that even possible? How do you go from writing the Muppet Show?
The
to
Kermit
a
can
possession
explain
movie?
that one. Kermit can explain.
Yeah.
Kermit
I
gets
know.
off on that stuff.
A lot of weed and mushrooms, man. That's how.
But during the conversation with him, we put together that it's actually almost like a metaphor for drug addiction and
Oh, 100%
relapse and
is.
things like that. Yeah, it turned into a really serious conversation. And then once we got into that, he was like, "Yeah, I'm surprised y'all picked up on it. We were hoping to, but we weren't sure." That's what the movie is actually about. It may
Well,
be a possession movie, but that he told us that was kind of the basis and what he was going for.
Could
I mean,
totally see it, man. I mean, it's a demon, right?
Yeah.
It's a demon that gets a hold of you and it possesses you and it takes control of your whole fucking life, man.
I think even when we set out to kind of do these like lighter episodes, we find ourselves oftentimes kind of going deeper into those. Like one of the best ones that I think that I remember doing is Frankenhooker, which we covered I think last summer. It's a really it's a throwaway like goofy trauma movie, and half that podcast was about body dysmorphia and the mental health that goes into not being in love with your who you are as a person.
Junk.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it ended up being this like really like heavy episode, and it sometimes that happens a lot of times where we're going to start prioritizing movies that we want to talk about simply for entertainment value and that are going to be about our mental health, and they end up kind of being about mental health. I think the only ones we've ever done that wasn't about mental health and like the 135 episodes we've done was Phantasm. We started talking about Phantasm later.
Oh my god!
Did the sequel.
Did I ever tell you what my scariest movie is?
No.
The Crying Game.
I knew it was going to be something like
I
that.
got suckered into going to see that damn movie because, well, this is okay. This is a BC story. For those that don't know, my wife's name is Connie, so it's a before Connie story, so a BC story. And I yes, I do have to preface that, or I'd sleep on the couch. But anyway, young sailor that was trying to get a little piece of something, decided to take this young lady to a movie and let her pick it. And lo and behold, I was like, what the fuck did you drag me into? Hands down to this date, scariest movie I've ever seen.
I don't know. For some reason, it might be because I've seen so much horror. I don't find horror movies as a whole scary or traumatizing. A lot of times I'll fall asleep watching them sometimes.
Well, like I told you before, my boys are the same way I am, pretty much desensitized to a lot of it. We were watching the Terrifier movie and we're laughing at Terrifier 3.
I mean,
Terrifier 1
is hilarious.
But we were laughing at Terrifier 1.
Yeah.
So
you know what's funny? We were talking about like laughing at some of these parts, and we were talking about a movie earlier, Nefarious, and the author of it was talking about it, was being interviewed, the guy who wrote the book that it's based off of, and he was saying it's funny, you know how you have different perceptions, people read things and they take different perceptions away. He said the cheeseburger scene, if you guys remember that scene where the devil cheats him out of the cheeseburger. One spoiler.
I might be the one here that's seen it, so I don't know. I can't speak for Andy, but I don't know Billy. Anyway, continue.
So he cheats him out of it, right? And one last time, and most people who see it, like, that's a horror, it's a terrible thing. You kind of feel for this guy the whole time, and it's a sad scene, and some people were crying in the theater. He said he was busting out laughing, right? He said he's dying laughing. He can't understand why people are crying. He's like, of course the devil would do this. Of course he would slap him in the face the last minute. It's what he does. Like, that's hilarious. Isn't it funny? He goes, I wrote that as a joke. He goes, and it turns out to be this powerful scene. He's like, so okay. He's like, Lord works in mysterious ways.
Have you ever seen the old Denzel Washington movie Fallen?
Oh yeah, that's a great movie, man.
Fallen you haven't seen it, Josh?
But there are I could fill libraries with movies that I haven't
Well,
seen.
this is it seems like
Right,
one that
right.
would be up your alley.
Do you know and understand how long people have been making movies?
I know that. Don't be a dumbass. I like that take on the possession story and dealing with demons and things like that. I like that take on it. Then I haven't seen Nefarious, but I've seen clips of it.
It's
And
okay.
when I saw the Iceman tapes, the clips of Nefarious were just disappointing. If you've
Oh, are you
never
talking about Kuklinich?
Kuklinski?
Is it Kuklinski? Yeah,
Yes.
Stanley Kuklinski. Yeah, Kuklinski,
That
the
dude is
Iceman.
a
Yeah.
terrifying. That's what I would have expected somebody to have tried to emulate to make a movie dealing with somebody that was possessed.
Maybe,
And having-
they almost kind of look the same, except he's fatter.
A little bit. I
That's-
think
He's fatter.
going back to go ahead.
There's if you've never seen interviews with the Iceman or whatever it's called, last time I checked, they were on Vox or
YouTube had 'em.
HBO. Yeah, whatever it's called. And there's a scene in one of them because they did 2 or 3 of them. A psychologist came in to talk to him and
Right.
interview him. And at one point, he questions Kuklinski as to why he did something. And he just stops and looks at him and starts nodding his head. And now Kuklinski's like 6'5", 6. He's a behemoth of a man who's murdered. He says more than 250 people.
Right. Mhm.
And he just looks at him and grins. Says, "You almost set me off right there. If this had been outside, you wouldn't have walked away." And they cut to the psychiatrist. It's just like, shit.
Yeah.
Because
I've
there
seen
would have
that
been
clip.
there would have been no way the cops could have stopped him from taking him out.
No.
And
And-
he gets emotional one time.
Yep.
One time when they ask him about his wife and what any regrets, and he brings up his wife and I regret that I ruined their lives.
Yeah.
That's the one time he gets emotional.
Out of all of it.
All of it, right? Describing all the killings and everything.
Yeah.
Killed those people on the highway for no reason because they cut him off.
Yeah. Or
Right.
the guy that bumped into him in the bar line and went around back to take a pee. And
Oh, yeah.
he just like wrapped his tie around the guy's neck and picked him up on his shoulder. And he's like, I acted as the hangman.
Oh yeah. Or how he used to blow the cyanide in their burger, go down to the other end of the bar and watch them eat it.
Yeah.
You know what? It's a disturbing fact about me. I'll go ahead and break down the wall real quick. I like when I watch interviews with serial killers like that. I like just really focusing on their eyes. Really looking deep into it, man. Because it's a different kind of look. They've got obviously a different way of looking at things, but just a different look about them, man.
Yeah, he's. I've seen a lot of interviews, so probably like you have, but some of the stuff he says and the way he reacts to it is just that may be one of the coldest interviews I have ever seen from a human being.
I want to ask a quick question.
Sure.
Let me fast forward to current events. Right,
Okay.
We just had an assassination.
Yeah,
The United Health CEO.
That is not the most recent thing I thought you were going to bring up. But continue.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, though, the guy, talk about like a movie plot. The guy leaves engraved bullet casings.
Yeah, crazy.
What do you think? We can go
It's-
around the horn.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be interesting to see how that event folds because literally nobody, that guy will probably walk. You will not find anybody who will. It'll be hard to find a jury of 12 people that'll disagree with that guy. It's part of the reason that out of bringing it back into what we do with Saw 6, my wife works in insurance. And Saw 6 is like the most justified that John Kramer's ever been, and I will stand by that.
yeah. Talking about Saw, I stick with the fact that the theory is that Kevin McAllister from Home Alone became Jigsaw and Saw. I love that theory, and I will stick with it. But to your question, I think it's kind of mixed feelings. On one hand, he's got a family now that he's no longer there for.
Yeah.
So you have people grieving for somebody that nobody really knew outside of the fact that he's a CEO at United Healthcare. Now, healthcare is screwing the shit out of everybody for a variety of reasons right now.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of a sad state of affairs that people are celebrating somebody who has to answer to a board on decisions made about how the business is run.
And the board doesn't even make the decisions how it's run either. Remember, the federal government passes laws.
Exactly. So he may have been a target of assassination for something he's not even responsible for.
Yeah.
And people are celebrating it. To make it worse, some of the people that are celebrating it apparently screenshotted the United Healthcare website before they took down the pictures and names of the rest of the CEOs and are posting them all over social media.
Crazy.
That's disgusting, man.
So do I defend the healthcare with some of the shit they're doing? No, I don't. But as a human being, it's kind of fucked up the way it's being
The act of engraving the bullets from your horror mind. What do you think?
I mean, to Mark's point, like I think it's wild. First off, to your point, Lou, about like the bullets, like the bullet is like I was when I came across that information, I was like, I'm sorry,
nobody's going to turn him in.
Like that's crazy for me to think about. For two, like to Mark's point, like as somebody that works in mental health, I think it is our healthcare system is 110% fucked. I hate dealing with insurance. I hate I think people get turned off to the idea of therapy because they don't want to deal with insurance. And I've seen quite a few loved ones that are have sons or daughters that are suicidal, not just depressed, but suicidal, and are being told that they can't see that they won't cover therapy or any psychologist or medication, or they end up having to wait 6 months. So like our entire system is crap. My wife works in insurance, so like I feel like I can like adequately say that. But on the flip side of that, like to Mark's point, like as fucked as a system as that is, like nobody should ever have to take it.
Yeah, there's
like,
no one person. There's no one person to say it's your fault.
It's an entire system. It's like the same thing saying like I'm gonna boycott this movie because Kevin Spacey's in it. Like
you do that too, man.
It's a multitude of things, there's hundreds of 100,000 of people that are working on that, whether it's the people that are fluffing wrong
Everything
people that are doing sound, doing cinematography, lighting, a number of different things, so it kind of seems crazy for me to think that, but I think it's the same scenario.
Oh, along the same lines as what we're talking about. You've got a fairly famous case. I think it was in Alaska. The guy got put in prison, and last I heard, he may have been released because he was using the sex offender list to track down and kill sex offenders and pedophiles.
Yeah.
It's scandalous, man.
I'm not going to put out. That's
the same kind of idea.
The crazy thing is, so healthcare is in Andy and I's wheelhouse, as well. And there's a guy, Stanley Hupfeld, who wrote a very interesting book called Political Malpractice, and he goes through great pains to go down the middle, right? To just go down the middle and say, like, this is these guys have no idea what they're talking about. These guys have no idea what they're talking about here. He made a very good point though in his book, and it's a short read. There'll be no healthcare reform until you have a legal system reform. And he talks about a 12-year-old that came to his ER in Ohio, and she came for a cold and a headache. So they sent her home with cold medicine. She came back a week later, same symptoms. They were like, okay, well, you still have the headache, so we'll do a CT scan. They find brain cancer. She dies 2 weeks later. Family sues because there was no CT scan first ER visit. Andy, do you scan the head first ER visit for a cold with a headache?
Nope.
He went around the nation to every ER residency program and sent the records for review. Every expert said, you're fine, go to court. The board settled for $20 million. Because they didn't want to go to a jury with a crying mother and a dead daughter and lose for 200. So they gave 20. He said, now, do I have insurance? Yeah. Are they going to give me 20? Oh, no. And they're going to raise my rates. And now that money now that money is not going to go into remodeling or upgrading any equipment. He said, and now I have to pad my coffers for the next lawsuit because I already lost 20 million. So that's guaranteed next time it's going to be 20 million or over because the precedent's been set. He goes, so now you're going to see on your bill a building charge of 32 cents and all these other BS charges. And he said, and that's what happens. He goes, until we figure out a way of looking at compensating or looking at medicine to where it's no longer the place where you can make one devastating error, right? I mean, if that's, it just can't be that way. It can't be where one mistake is catastrophic to the entire system, where it's hundreds of millions, especially if it's not negligence,
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to like a lot of good has come from capitalism. A lot of advances have been made because of capitalism. But when you start letting it play a major role in healthcare, you start running into these problems. What's the fastest way we can make a dime? And that's where I think a lot of the problem comes in.
It's such a slippery slope.
I think it's legal. I think you need legal reform. And Hupfeld offers too, you also have to take a look at something that we don't do too, is we don't have a very good physician compensation model. Mm-hmm. He said they need to be compensated differently. He said, in France, when you become a physician, you don't have to pay for your house anymore. We got that covered. Just come to work. He's like, we need to look at things like that.
I genuinely wish that America would kind of look at healthcare models of other countries. The fact that we are one of the only countries that has a thriving economy that does not allow their citizens to have universal healthcare is big mistake. But I understand
universal healthcare has its own issues too.
It does, and one of the interesting things that I think when you look at all these models and how these things work, right? One thing we've gotten away from, though, and to get back to my larger point though, of like, you can never really point a finger, right? Is you have a lot of federal regulation too, and one of the things Hupfeld points out is, a lot of people say, well, geez, we could reduce the cost of healthcare if they could sell insurance across state lines, right? And he points out that is one hell of a myth that is right in front of our face to see how much of a big lie that is, right? Massachusetts still has state requirements for insurance. It doesn't matter if it's sold out of Alabama. It has to meet Massachusetts requirements. He said, so you're not going to save anything, but $5, maybe. He said, because every state has laws on the books requiring certain coverage in their state. Doesn't matter where you sell it from. He said, so that is a myth. That is an absolute lie. And then he went out. The other thing he went out to point out that was a lie too was, he said, death panels. He said, death panels is a misnomer. He said, we make you talk to your lawyer before you die. Why the hell shouldn't you talk to your doctor? He goes, you should be able to talk about end of life care in America. He's like, that is absurd. So I think everyone would enjoy it. It does really go right down the middle, smashing shibboleths in a manner, offering solutions as well too. Stanley Hupfeld, political malpractice.
I think that's one of the things that like my wife working in insurance that I've really kind of insurance like seemed like really intimidating before I got married and when I was out there, and then she started working in insurance, and a lot of that stuff like kind of is like, oh, there is a lot of like myths and a lot of things that are
Yes.
just BS, and they're gonna try and pull the wool over your eyes, but you fight back, man. They'll meet you halfway.
In the Navy, we say that's talking to them damn sea lawyers.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That sounded like almost like a news story. And speaking of news, Lou, we kind of missed it earlier in the show. So why don't we?
We did. Oh, we're done.
Going to the wrap up.
We'll close it up. Well, first off, let's say thanks to everybody for coming. I mean, I always love talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Can you do that again, please? Okay, all right.
The presidential wave.
That is the Miss America wave.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't going to say presidential, but
it was kind of funny when we were getting this scheduled because I think me and Josh were familiar with you, and Billy, other than being on the show that one time, wasn't. So he's like, "Yeah, are we supposed to watch a movie? How do we prepare for this?"
I
don't get it.
You just pop on and you do stuff.
Well, you guys, we're just gonna plop you in. I'm like, all right.
You guys wasted a golden opportunity to fuck with them. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man,
we got to chat and we're constantly fucking with each other.
As long as you didn't come here with facts, because then I'd have looked real stupid.
I did not come here with facts, but the news story that I was hoping you were gonna bring up.
Yeah, go for it.
All of the weird the UFO or the UAP sightings that happened over like Jersey and Pennsylvania that were like drones, car-sized drones. Like I saw this video. I don't know if it was real or not, but I figured we had you guys on the Fourth Kind episode. So
it was like, on the internet, wasn't it?
Everything was tied together. It was.
It happened. It's real.
Okay, so it's happening. But there was a tow truck that took away one of these UAPs. And like it looked like legitimate. So I'm kind of curious everyone's thoughts.
What I don't understand about any of this, okay. So I'll give you my 2-minute elevator speech, right? That's only supposed to be 30 seconds, Lewis, right? That's 2 minutes for me. So here's my 2-minute elevator speech on aliens, right? First of all, the government loves the fact that we don't know, and they've admitted twice that they are never going to tell the truth, never. And even if somebody comes out and tells the truth, they're going to make it look like it's not the truth because they love the guessing. They love that Russia spends money on a program and we don't know what they have, so we spend money on a program which makes them not know what we have, right? And it keeps everybody guessing, and it keeps money kind of flowing, that we can kind of do whatever we want with if there is or isn't a program, right? But nobody knows whether the other guy has anything, so we're not going to admit or deny, is what they've said, right? We don't know for sure if they have anything or not, so we're not going to admit whether we do or not, because right now, whatever money they're spending on those programs is not being directed at us, is how they look at it, right?
Well, you also have to remember when they announce a story like this, what else is happening in the background.
Well, right. That's why I say they're never going to admit it. The other thing I say is these guys like Luis Elizondo and all these guys who come out and say, I have all this evidence, I'll show you in the skiff. You know what? As soon as they say, I'll show you, get out of here. You're not a whistleblower. You're a nothing. You're nothing. If you know, say it. I'm tired of it. Just say it. You'll be protected. There's enough people in this world who will protect you. Know nothing. Yeah. You know nothing. You're a plant. You're out here just stirring the pot, keeping us going, because as long as they keep spending money and we keep spending money, it's less money directed at us purposely.
It's like junior prom. You know what I'm saying? Little Sally's rubbing on your leg, but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah,
exactly. It's worse than getting jerked off.
They're not going to tell you. They're not going to admit it. Do I believe it now? I have been learning some very interesting things, right? Like about space and the universe. Like I've been taking this course on physics, and the guy was like, unicorns and atoms, right? You don't believe in unicorns, but you believe in atoms. Have you seen an atom? And I'm thinking to myself, I haven't. And he's like, if you're thinking to yourself, you haven't, well, you're like the rest of humanity because they're smaller than the light spectrum. Nobody's seen one.
Talking about that, I heard a thing the other day that said on a molecular level, you don't actually physically touch anything because of the way atoms are constructed.
I haven't gotten that far, but I'll tell you, the guy said that it was just a fascinating course on all these things, and they were talking about the space of an atom, right? He said the nucleus of an atom, you put it at the 50-yard line, you just put a BB at the 50-yard line of a stadium, and that's the atom. So the entire empty space and the void between it, which is why objects in motion are shorter because they compact the space. And he was talking about that's how that's how they think they can break light. That's where he's going.
Yeah, physics is one of the trippiest things when you start getting into it.
It's insane, man. He talked about the fears of the particle accelerator. He said, let's go through the fears of the particle accelerator. And he's like, this is one fear, that it'll become a segmentlet, and he's like, that'll basically eat the whole world and make it one big segment. He's like, so yeah, of course they freaked out. He's like,
One of the other worries was that especially the CERN Hadron Collider, was that they were going to create a black hole and it was going to destroy.
He talked about that. He said Hawking got a Nobel Prize on Hawking radiation that dispels black holes. And then the one thing he pointed out, and I thought this was fascinating, he said in the 60s we figured out that these collisions are happening in the atmosphere every day.
Wasn't
We're getting pounded from space.
Wasn't it just really a participation trophy? I mean, come on. It's not like the guy's got anything else to look forward to. Shit.
That's right.
Except Epstein Island, but I mean,
or Diddy's
just hanging around, if you know what I mean.
Oh man. I'll tell you, I do believe though. I don't believe we're alone. I think like Orson Welles, what a terrible waste of space, if it's true. I just think we haven't found it. I do also give Ray Kurzweil, shout out to Ray Kurzweil's theory that, I never heard anyone else posit, we don't sell our shelves short, right? Everyone might be waiting for us.
Yeah, somebody. One of the theories that I came across this week was that aliens had already existed, and so like a lot of the I think it was like Tuesday, Wednesdays when a lot of these videos started popping up in the Northeast. People were like, "What if it's actually aliens leaving here? Like, what if they've been here since the 50s?" And they're like, these people are just screwed up.
So long and thanks for all the fish, right?
Yeah,
well, I mean, there's something to be said for that, right?
Right?
I mean,
Do you guys know that? Do you guys know that reference?
well,
What was that?
So long and thanks for all the fish.
Now, please do not take my fish. I love the fish.
No, do you know that?
I don't know.
That's Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's how it starts. The dolphins are like, "Hey, we're out." They know the Earth is about to get blown up, and they're like, they did a triple backflip gainer, and then went off into the sky, which in dolphin translated is "so long and thanks for all the fish." And all the dolphins leave planet Earth.
I mean,
that's how Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy starts. I'll tell you, if you guys have never seen that, you will. The most modern version is the closest to the book. You'll love it.
That's
we
the
haven't.
one with Mos Def, right?
What's up?
That's the one with Mos Def.
Probably.
I think so. I think
It's like
so.
2004, 2005.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It is him. That's right.
I mean, they did an entire Star Trek movie based on aliens coming to visit Wales. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. They had to bring him back. That's right. I forgot the search for the voyage home.
We haven't gone down this road yet, this podcast, so let me be the asshole to just steer us onto it. From if you want to be the ever retarded politician, if you will, you could say, well, you know what? Yeah, the aliens are totally taking off because Biden's about to get us into World War III. It's about to go thermonuclear on this whole planet. And
Isn't that crazy? Did you see Russia has the Oshnik missile? Have you read about that? That thing is like a 2-minute delivery.
I think it's the all shit missile.
Yeah, the Oshnik. We're like,
oh shit, here it comes.
I guess we're sitting here like, we got nothing for that, so we're just gonna chill out for a minute, just gonna hang out here and
I
not to
have,
get caught by
I have
Iranians and
read
cry in a
about
small
some
boat.
of the weapons they have talked about that they have, and it's like, Jesus Christ, what kind of insanity do these people have to design some of these weapons?
Right? You're like, no way.
People
then
that
they say
watch
it can,
all
like,
these
drop-
horror movies.
Yeah, they say it can drop stuff and like leave the next building alone. Like it's insane,
Or,
man.
what they call it?
Wow.
They dropped one on one of the
Yeah.
terrorist leaders during Trump's first presidency. I think they called it something like a ninja bomb.
It's
And
it's the Oshnik. It has like 2 minutes or a 2-minute delivery from time of launch. Like it can be anywhere in like 2
Jesus.
minutes.
This
It's like-
one, they dropped it. It went through like the roof of the vehicle it was in and just threw shrapnel everywhere and just killed everybody just in the vehicle.
That's
Didn't
insane.
hurt anybody else, just the people in the vehicle. And they called it something like a ninja bomb or something. It's for specific strikes like that where they don't want high casualties.
It's similar to a Sabo round, is what
We're all old enough. Yeah, right. We're all old. Slap. Remember Slap? We took it all off the truck. They were like, Jesus, they'll be finding that for weeks. They used to have these things called slap rounds, right? You guys would have to Google it, but it's if you ever see a racer and he's firing it from the rifle, like it's that kind of like the aluminum. Something light armor
I
piercing.
forget what the hell it is.
Yeah, it's like slap. Anyway, they call it SLAP, right? Is the acronym. And we took it off the truck, man, because I mean, you fire one round and it's gonna go through every freaking. They're gonna find it like 4 towns over.
Right.
These rounds are just—they're never gonna stop, man. So we just took them off the truck because right? Know your target and what lies beyond, man. I don't know what's a mile out from here, man, but that's where this thing's gonna be if I fire it.
At least a mile.
Recently read another one. Would they call it like the rods of God or something like that?
Oh, that they drop
the tungsten rods.
I don't know that that's a viable thing. I don't know that exists.
I don't know if it exists, but I've heard the theory behind it, and it's basically
right. The impact from coming through the atmosphere with the gravity and everything.
Yeah, it's just
which
ridiculous.
interesting. Talk about like learning things. When I was one of the things I learned was physicists are entirely amazed at how weak gravity is. And as an example, the guy held up a magnet holding a paper clip, and he goes, "Just so you know, the entire Earth is pulling on that paper clip." He's like, but I can generate a field to counteract the Earth's gravity here. He's like, we're amazed by that. He's like, that amazes us. He goes, I just want you to know that. And then he never talked about it again. Like, and I'm 3 hours in. It's never come up again. He's like, we're really amazed at how weak gravity really is.
Yeah, and at the same time, though, it can generate enough force by drawing something in from like outer space.
So he's saying those are other planets, like and stuff like that, and like all the rotations and things. He's like, but the Earth's gravity is relatively weak. He's like, it's other things pulling on other things, and he said, really, the biggest force in the universe is Jupiter. It's even pulling on our sun and causes our sun to wobble. And he said, if you were to like actually look at it, he said, like the Earth goes around it. He goes, but the sun kind of goes around too.
It's like about Uranus.
That's how they find stars with planets, is if they can find a star with the wobble.
Right.
With the gravity of everything
gravity's
else.
pulling on it. Yes, exactly. You're right. That's exactly how they find planets, is what he said. Yep, they look for the wobble, and then they zero it in to find near planets, because the far ones won't really have that effect, and that's how they find the near planets. Because the far ones take too long to come around, I think, too.
Now that we've gotten into the nerdy shit.
Wow. And it's hey, anyway, we were gonna wrap and get rolling, but you guys have anything you want to finish up with? Talk about the abyss gazing?
Uranus.
Yeah. So
oh wait, we're done with that? Never mind.
Man, I'll tell you.
So I'm typically the social media guy. So you guys can find Abyss Gazing. We drop brand new episodes every Wednesday at 6 p.m. You guys can go to anywhere you guys find podcasts from, or you guys can check out our parent company, Victims and Villains, where mental health meets pop culture. Victimsandvillains.net, where you guys can find other shows on our podcast network, as well as movie reviews, all of our social media, and also our mental health resource library.
They're fun shows, man. Check them out. They're a blast. Seriously.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And sometimes I have to bitch at Josh about not liking a good movie.
Oh.
Look, I could say the same to you. I mean, you didn't like Immaculate, so...
I didn't say I didn't like it.
All right,
Mom, Dad,
it'll be okay.
You're sleeping
Don't
on
hit
the
me
couch
again.
tonight.
I mean-
Stop fighting. I don't like it when you fight.
my ultimate take on Immaculate was that it had Sydney Sweeney in a white nightgown that was wet the majority of the movie, and that's the only reason
It was one scene.
It was
Say it
multiple
louder.
scenes.
One scene.
Multiple scenes.
Well,
One
it's
Well,
the
what's
whole
wrong?
movie
Does she
when
have
you
a
leave it
penis?
on pause. That's all I'm saying.
And he's complaining. Why?
I didn't say I was complaining.
That's what I was gonna
just
say.
said
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
the
Does
only
she have a
reason it
penis?
did as well.
Also, Monica Bellucci, Bellucci, Brotherhood of the Wolf. Go
That's a
check out our
great movie,
episode,
Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah.
and you can see why Mark really loves it. So much so that we made Monica Bellucci the album artwork.
Is she in Brotherhood
for
of the
that
Wolf?
episode. Mhm.
Yeah, she was
Oh,
One of
the,
her first ones.
she
Oh,
was
she's
the
amazing.
one sent by the Catholic Church that was working in the brothel with the main character.
Oh,
Atta
yeah, yeah.
girl.
Also, the reason why Mark loves that movie.
It's
And
great. That's a
watches
great
it.
movie. It's a great movie.
I don't believe she actually exists in real life because I don't think anyone looks like that in real life ever. I think
May not. It
she's
could
a-
be camera tricks. That's what Super Dave Osborne used to say.
she was
Uh,
generated by the Matrix.
Super Dave Osborne. Hold on.
He used to say that all the time.
yourself, man.
Camera tricks. How'd you do that, Dave? Camera tricks.
I used to love that show, man.
I think I broke my spleen. All right. Anyway, we gotta get over to the rap. We got a song. We have a song. We have a song for the rap, fellas.
Let's see. Let's see
Oh,
if I
yeah.
remember to put it where it's
You don't
supposed
have
to
to
go.
listen to me rap.
Let's see.
We need a graphic to like superimpose, man, like a giant mushroom stamp or something. Hey, all right, so I paid for it, so you don't have to. Right? Who knows if we didn't do it? So I paid for it, so you don't have to, right? So here's a wrap of some of the podcasts I listened to this week that caught my attention. Right, 29 November 2024, Human Events with Jack Posobiec. You know, he's a former Navy intel guy, and he talked with Mike Benz, who outlines how the administrative state uses the internet to spy on us. And the history behind it. Mike Benz is great, right? I mean, he's got a lot of stuff, right? It's funny thing happened on the way to Ukraine in 2014. To quote Mike Benz, he worked at the State Department, and his whole thing is not whether things are right or wrong, you know, on what they're doing, but that, you know, everyone should be aware, you know, the internet isn't free. You know, what you're seeing is all scripted there. But he does talk about a lot of the involvement starting in Ukraine in 2014 on that outward facing stuff. For December 2024, we had hour one of Steve Deace had a takedown of the Supreme Court argument on transgenderism. I'm encourage you to check that out. I always say if I had 15 minutes, I'd be on the Steve Deace show because they do start with a rundown of the crazy stuff people said on the news the night before. So you'll hear sort of what to look up if I only had 15 minutes. Human Events again with Jack Posobiec, man. I like this guy. But I was listening to him twice, and he talked. I'm sorry. That's a second type. Back to Charlie Kirk show today. If you listen to Charlie Kirk, he talked about the vetting, and he brought up another vetting question. I know we talked about that last week. He had a couple of those vetting questions. He said one of the things that we should feel confident is that, you know, during these vettings in the Trump meetings down in Mar-a-Lago, if they were or are current administration officials and they're trying to stay within the incoming administration, one of the questions they're being asked is, why have you not been, you know, an agent of change? What are you waiting for? And so, you know, if anyone in there on that committee does not like that answer, there is no second interview. There's no continuing. So we know a couple of questions now, right? What was your favorite Trump policy, you know, and why? You know, do you share his worldview? What part of it? And now we know, you know, if you were in that agency, you know, why weren't you an agent of change earlier? What are you waiting for? So good stuff coming out of there. Anyway, that's what I checked out this week, and that's the information I got. So there's a wrap for you.
I tell you, I'm really, really enjoying this segment. I just,
I'm glad.
I got a little bit carried away earlier. We had our guests on today. I was excited to get them on, and I just forgot to just guide you into that shit. But it happens.
Apparently, I wrote mine twice.
That's all right. Fellas, we really appreciate you coming back or coming on, and we need to get you back because I feel like there's so much more to discuss. But
I mean, I'm always down for a fun time.
I am typically the hindrance that is the reason why it's taken us so long, is because I'm a busy guy. So I apologize.
We should
Well,
all watch
don't,
Vampire Hunter D and make Andy watch an anime and review it.
Yeah, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back there, buddy. That's all. I'm
So,
gonna
so
say.
it's funny you mentioned Vampire Hunter D because I've been trying to get Josh to cover that on Abyss Gazing for years, and he's like, "No,
Do the new one, Bloodlust.
Bloodlust is fantastic too."
That's amazing.
It
The
was
art-
originally supposed to be a remake, but they went ahead with it being so different and just made it a sequel.
Is
It's
it
great.
subtitled?
You can get it in English too.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't read.
I don't mean to brag, but I do not read.
I don't math either, but that's okay.
Oh, somebody got me with it the other day. Who cares?
Anyway, fellas, hey, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll make it happen again next time. Bye bye.
You're listening to Nothing's Off the